Hello and welcome to the Overly Animated Podcast, where we take animation seriously. We talk animated shows and movies here. Find everything about us at overlyanimated.com. I'm your host, Dylan Hysen, and today I'm joined by April Collins.
Hi there.
And Beatriz Mourad.
Hello.
Welcome to welcome. Apparently, it's a big deal. Apparently, well, our season 2 Arcane podcast. We're going to be getting into everything from big season 2 of League of Legends. What's the official title of the show?
Arcane, I think. Arcane.
Arcane, a League
yeah.
of Legends or something. That
Yeah,
did they
sure.
say? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna be we're getting everything from the season. Spoilers for the entire season. We're getting into all 9 episodes, all 3 drops. Talking about everything from, I guess we can't even really say anything until we put up the spoiler warning. So we're going to do that right away. We did podcast on season 1 of Arcane, though it was more of a high level discussion a little bit after the fact about Arcane in state of animation. That was a good one. So you can, several years ago, check that out at overlyanimated.com. Search for that. This one will be getting, I think, more into the specifics of everything through the season because it was such a wild one, and I am very interested what everyone's takes are. I am going to do the rare thing and actually put up an explicit warning for this podcast.
Yay!
So please, if you are under 18, please turn this off and do not listen. This is I think, unavoidable given what happens this season, at least in 1 or 2 scenes.
For mature audiences.
For mature audiences
Ooh.
only. And here we go. Spoiler warning for all of season 2 of Arcane. I'm going to say starting now. It's probably too hard to get into anything without. So make sure you've seen all of Arcane, season 2 and season 1. Let's just very quickly, any previous League of Legends experience before Arcane, so our listeners know where we're coming from. April, how about you?
Yes.
Is that reluctant? Are you
Um,
afraid? Are you proud of it?
I don't know. I mean, no. But I played quite extensively for many years.
Well, this was shocking to me, by the way, when I learned it about it.
And I played a lot. Like, it was one of those things where it was like, wake up, go to work, come home, play League, go to sleep, wake up, come home. Like, it was a lot of playing.
Who did you main? Like, who were your characters?
Oh, I really love. So I played way back in the early 2000 teens. So like I remember when Jace and like Vi got introduced, and I got so mad because my ex, he was always like, why don't you play Caitlyn, because she was a girl. And I was like, if I'm gonna play a girl, it's gonna be Annie, who was the little girl with the bear. I don't know if anyone remembers her.
Yeah,
But but I mostly played as a Moo because he was just so sad.
Yes, that was like, yes.
And he had the puddle of tears and they were
Yes.
like toxic. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you know who a Moo is. He was a little mummy. It was so cute.
Sounds cute.
So it was. So I stopped playing. I don't know when I stopped playing. Which I think is fine. But I do like remember whenever like a lot of the characters from this show were like introduced into the game originally. So we'll get into it. Like I saw a meme about Jace and I was like, oh, I feel that meme so much. Like but yeah,
Nice.
so that's my history.
April, secret old school League player. Who knew? But
Yeah.
so we'll put this to use in this podcast. Beatrice, how about you?
So I was never like a huge, I knew of League vaguely, because I tended to just play like single player video games instead of like multiplayer, but then that ended up being the only game I could play with my friends on my laptop. And so, and they were all my friends were big League players. They'd been playing for like a decade, like from the start.
Oof.
So then I was like, all right, sure, I'll join. I'll give it a try. I only lasted like a few months of it before I was like, this is not for me. Because I came in again 2020. So by that point, there were so many characters. There was so much like whatever. It was very overwhelming. I mainly played ARAM, not even the proper League game, not Summoner's Rift, but just ARAM was just what everyone did. I tried to do TFT, it didn't work. The only game from like the League world that I actually did enjoy and like I stopped playing for a bit was Legends of Runeterra, which is the card game, which I loved, and that came from me watching Arcane season 1 and being like, I want to know more about like the lore, and everyone was like, you're not really going to get it from the main game. You should probably just play Legends of Runeterra. That's where all the stuff is, and I actually really did enjoy it. I didn't keep up with it just because I just didn't. Another hyperfixation just took hold of me, and my mind went somewhere else. But so mainly it's that. So I kind of know some characters and their backgrounds very vaguely. I might mix up characters. Leona, Diana, I hope they are future projects for Riot in the future. That would be great to get their story. Is all I'll say.
Nice. Yeah, hopefully more League, I don't know if it'd be called Arcane stuff coming.
It won't. I don't think they're planning on calling it Arcane. The stuff that comes in the future.
Oh, also Ari, please.
Yes.
Please have Ari. I want a Star Guardians show. I'm sorry, but that would be amazing. Give me a Star Guardians show.
That sounds familiar just from the podcast where you talked about that, I think.
Yes, I've said it before. I probably am saying it again. I have to put it out there. Yeah, that would be a great sort of thing. I know that won't happen, but it would be great for me.
Well, I'm glad we have some League experience here because I know nothing about anything League of Legends. So just a warning there as I'm hosting this. Keep in mind, I was gonna say I've heard of Ari. I think that's about it. Outside of the show,
you probably heard of her from me.
Probably, yes. I probably heard a bunch of stuff last. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation I think on that Arcane season 1, but I guess they could probably still be applied now moving forward. So, I'm not sure if we expected the show to end after 2 seasons. I don't remember the state of it.
I think I did. I think I remember
You might have called it, but I feel like it wasn't like a consensus opinion.
No, it wasn't confirmed. It wasn't confirmed, but I think it was like I remember very distinctly like some like the CEO of Riot or co-founder was being like, yeah, this is probably going to be 2 seasons of it. Like the second season will be the last one or whatever. Yeah. So when it was confirmed, I wasn't surprised, but a lot of people were. And I was like, I thought everybody knew this. So, yeah.
I feel like that's like it was like an underground fact. It was that they were like, Arcane's literally only going to be 2 seasons, you guys, and like that's it. No,
yeah.
And then
we'll talk about how that played out. Ending
the
story.
We will.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, so let's again spoilers for season 2 of Arcane. Let's get into overall thoughts on the season. Now we're gonna dive into a lot of follow-up questions here, so we don't need to hit on everything yet. But April. Generally, what did you think of Arcane season 2?
So the more that I have watched it and just like seen more things.
How many times have you seen it?
I've already seen it 3 times.
Wow.
Well, okay, because there's like that first watch through, but then I was also like rewatching the previous week's episodes before the next week's episodes. So like I guess that would count as 2 watches. And then I rewatched it again because I needed to put something on the TV while I was working on like a craft project. So which inevitably I would stop and just watch the show again. But I really enjoyed this season, which I know is, I don't know if that's a hot take, but I loved this season. So.
I don't think that's a hot take.
Yeah. Okay. We'll dive into more specifics.
I was going to say, I have a lot more to say, but we'll like get into those things. But I'm just trying to answer your question.
Okay. But that's interesting though. Did it get better for you as you watched it more?
Yes.
That's interesting. Okay, I like to see that because I've only seen most things here once. Maybe we watched here and there, So
yeah,
maybe it would improve. That's interesting to know. Beatrice, how about you? Overall, season 2 thoughts.
So I wanted to start with a PSA for anyone who, for some reason, is still listening and hasn't watched the show. don't watch the last 3 episodes the same day you watch Wicked. Don't do it, because by the end you're going to be so emotionally overwhelmed and overstimulated that you'll need hours to decompress. I don't know why I decided to do that to myself. And good emotions, not bad, but just, that was heavy. That was a lot. I liked it. The mentality I came into the show with was just, I know it's the last season, and I think the season 1's a masterpiece. So I was just like, it was lightning in a bottle. I'm not expecting him to capture it again. So I came into season 2 with a lot of grace for the show. I have critiques for the show. I have thoughts, but overall, I walked away from the show feeling good, feeling like happy about it. So even though, despite all the critiques, I just mentally was just like, this has been such a blessing of a show to exist. I'm so happy it exists that I was just like, you know what, like,
did you have
it was going to be very, yeah.
I was going to say, did you have one of those moments where you're just like, I can't believe I exist in the universe at the same time as this show?
No, well, I felt that way more in season 1. Season 2, I was just like, and I think it has to do a lot with the ending. I was just like, wow, they really decided to go, you know what, let's take the bury your gays and just make it bury your hets and give the lesbians a win for once. And I was just like, you know what? Thank you. And everything's good. I was like, you know what? Like, whatever happens, like, I had a great time with this show, and I really love the journey, and I'm so happy it exists. So, good. So I say I liked it, but have thoughts.
Okay. Yes. I think a lot of thoughts coming. I love the positivity. I will give a warning to my overall thoughts that like for season 1, I wasn't like quite as high as everyone else. So if you're someone that loves it, just, keep it in mind. Just my opinion. I'm not saying anyone else is like right or wrong. Just but that being said, I've always thought the animation was incredible. I did think season 1 was very good. And I think this season was also very good, for the most part. But I think there were kind of like high highs and low lows for this season. Yeah. Amazing animation again. And honestly, there's like a stretch around the middle of the season. I think episodes 5 to 7 for me. Granted, I haven't rewatched a ton. Whereas like the most I've been into Arcane. I was like really loving the show around that time. And again, I wasn't like quite as in the season 1, but I do, look back on season 1 with a lot of nostalgia given some of the structural issues this season. So I do think the season does have a lot of structural issues. That's the big point. In terms of like overall high level plot stuff, decisions on how fast to move and like jumping around. Episode 7, I loved it. I think it's my favorite episode of Arcane. So there are things I really loved of this season. Started rough for me. I think you start off kind of hating everyone, maybe intentionally by the show. We'll get into that, and I did struggle with the first batch, but then I got into it, and then we'll talk about the ending soon. So I think it's a really interesting one to talk about because, like I said, it's really great stuff, really questionable stuff. Honestly, makes for interesting discussion. I will say, as a big casual as well, I found things fairly confusing, especially starting off the season. Yeah, I do not think they really tried to get you back into everything.
They just threw everybody in. They're like, keep up.
Yeah, and a lot of times they do not say character names for a long time. It's not the most casual friendly, but I think you get the vibes and everything. I don't think you need to know all super nuances. So I apologize if I get things wrong as we're going here, but we will hopefully with by our powers combined get everything right. One other thing I wanted to say. I'm interested to see what you guys think. I at various points here, I felt like the season felt like more like snapshots of a larger story than a super complete unified story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I think a very common critique I've seen amongst people is that even though I knew it was only going to be 2 seasons, a lot of people were like, well, this could have been 5. This could have been 4 seasons. There's so much story in it. Yeah. That's definitely whatever their intention was. It was a lot. It was a lot that they fit into this season. that.
And
yeah.
I was gonna say, and it has come out that like even like the last episode was supposed to be like an
hour
hour
30.
30.
Yeah.
And we did not get an hour 30.
I think it's pretty evident from the finale.
Yeah.
No, I think each batch could have been a season easily, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just like, potentially hurts if you're looking for more comprehensive storytelling or more details or whatever, could hurt on that level. But I think it's kind of interesting. Season 1, to be fair, also is a little bit like this, just I think way more extreme this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of I think a lot of my issues with season 2 a lot of times just go back to being like, this is this thing that I have a problem with existed in season 1, but I feel like they had more restraint in season 1, whereas in season 2 they just indulged a bit more. Yeah. And I'm like, I kind of wish you kept a little bit more of that restraint.
I agree with that. We'll continue this discussion. I want to talk about the ending, I guess, first on top of people's minds. I'm interested. Was this a satisfying ending? I think Beatriz may hit on it, walking away happy. But April, were you satisfied with the finale, with generally how we left things with these group of characters for Arcane?
I think overall I'm satisfied with the ending because the situation at hand sort of came to a close. And it's one of those things too where like if you really wanted to watch things like truly end, like there will never be an ending. You know what I mean? So I think that where we sort of left things, like that was the place to leave it. Like, okay, cool. Like and I guess I kind of like, I don't know, side with the writers in the fact of like, okay, like this is where we're going to, like where we have to leave things because we have to move on to other things now. And I mean, given what they've hinted at, I'm excited for what they do next. So
nice. What about the finale overall? Did you find it to be a satisfying finale?
I always feel like I'm like so very generous when it comes to like being understanding, because I'm like, okay, given the fact that like your showtime got cut, yeah, okay, you did what you could. Now there were things that they left out that I really would have liked to have seen, and I think it would have made more sense to like everybody else too. But you can tell that the finale was cut short, which I think that's one of my criticisms of it, is like it's very obvious that they didn't get as much time as they thought they had, and it just shows in terms of like the plot, and especially whenever like you're entering into like a huge like showdown, so to say, like you can feel it.
Yeah, nice. Beatrice, how about you? Satisfying ending overall?
So I think for me, like the reason I was satisfied with the ending was because I had come to accept what they were trying, the story I had come to accept what direction they had taken with the story. I think like, and not to get like philosophical, but I'm like trying in the past like few years, I've been trying to engage with media less from a perspective of like, this is what I would have done and then try to engage with it in a sense of like, this is what was given to me.
Yes.
This is what is in front of me. What is like, I want to meet it where it's at. So in the sense of like meeting it where it's at, accepting like, okay, the way this is going to end is less going to be a focus on the Piltover versus Zaun systemic oppression situation, in which is where instead of that, we end up with a storyline that had like a larger villain that united everybody, like very much, which is more typical for like, is a story that we've seen more of, which is like everyone set their sides differences, unite against the larger enemy. And I'm like, and I accepted it, and I was just like, okay, if this is a story that we're gonna get, I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, I think sure, I would have liked more. Would have liked a little bit like more like sinew between the two joints of the plots, absolutely. But another thing that I've come to like notice is if my main criticism is that I wanted more, that means that I really liked what we got. You know, versus like, so it's like, if my the main thing I have is, man, I wish we had more time. I wish there had been more, they expand on certain things. That means that at least of the point of the things that they had set out to do and the decisions they made, I'm like, okay, I accept the decisions you made. I wish we had more time, which is in a way a backhanded compliment, which is me saying I really like what you've done so far. So
it's like,
I think that's where I land.
I was going to say, it's like choosing to look at the glass half full versus half empty.
Right.
I think it's funny though that you say that too, because whenever, like, as I continue to like watch more and more animation or just even any type of show in general, like, I feel like I'm so much more forgiving than a lot of other people, simply because I'm like, this is what I was given. Like, I can't go back and change it. And I can be upset about that, and that's fine. But at the same time, like, this is what I have. Like, the writers and the animation artists aren't going to be like, oh, well, April said this. Like, maybe we should redo it. Like, there's no redo. So,
Yeah. And, you know, it's hard. Yeah. Telling stories at this scale, like live action animation, movie, film, books,
whatever.
It's so hard to tell a story and to create. And so I guess over the years, I've also just become a lot more sympathetic to that. As someone who's trying to do that, I'm like, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to tell a story, and it's hard to tell it well. It's hard for everybody. Like, it's hard to please everybody. So the best thing you can do is just do your best. And so I'm, like I said in the very, very beginning, like, I am giving the show a lot of grace, but that is intentional. It's hard. And I think for what it was, like, it's still this beautifully animated show that it swung hard. I appreciate big swings. I appreciate big swings rather than tepid swings. And yeah.
Yeah, great points. I love the positivity here. I think I hope the listeners can consider it. You know, I think people are very hard on fantasy show endings, and it is really hard to pull those off, as we've seen from time and time again. So yeah, you could say like maybe cutting the show short is like a way to avoid having to have that like terrible final season. A lot of shows seem to have that, at least in terms of audiences. So there's something to be said there. I agree with Beatrice's last point about big swings. I found like high level a lot. I did not like the overall their decisions this season, but I really do appreciate going for it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
I'd so much rather have like a quote unquote disaster, which I don't think this was. I think there's like good things and bad things. Like a disaster like show that like goes for a ton of interesting things and like doesn't do them well, than super boring. So
yeah.
I like, it is really interesting all the things they tried to do. In terms of the ending, I don't like I don't necessarily hate or love the ending. I think it was like fine. I do think one thing Beatrice talked about, like the structure of heading into the last episode of we're going to transition the focus from Zaun Piltover to Hive Mind, let's unite against it, conflict. I was not satisfied with that. But given the setup, I think the finale was fine. Like, and I like how epic it was. I think it was great vibes, even if plot-wise, I don't know, you know, like great vibes, epic fantasy ending, you know. So there's a ton of incredible sequences, beautifully animated. So I think they given the setup, I think did a pretty good enough job. I will say the epilogue is very vague about everything that's going on. I'm not necessarily a big fan of that. I would prefer epilogues that kind of spell things out a little bit more. You know, I think the last scene, you could write more specific things happening, but you know, I don't know.
But that's not what this show does. Like, I was going to say, one of the things that the show does so well is they put Easter eggs all over the place.
Right.
And so if you're not like privy to them, especially like I understand people who aren't like, who've never played League of Legends before, feeling very, very lost and confused, because like I'll be totally honest, like as soon as like we started with, I think, what is he, Singed or whatever his name is?
Singed?
Singed, yes. I just call him the doctor. But as soon as they started like showing what the doctor was doing, I was like, oh fuck, we're gonna get Warwick and it's gonna be great. And like I just kept watching it all along the way. But it was great because like I was watching with like my husband and our friend, and the two of them were just like, why do we keep seeing what he's doing? What is he doing? Are those wolves? Like totally lost and confused. And I was like, okay, I understand that because you don't know who Warwick is, and you would never understand what he's doing. So
yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like big shimmer experiment. I think they set that up in season 1, probably.
Yeah.
That's all I really got from it.
No, yeah. I will say I also in a weird way, I also appreciate that they're not watering down their mythos, their world, like their world for the casual consumer or the casual viewer. I feel like a lot of times in adaptations of things, they try to make it when an IP is adapted into a film or whatever, for the broader audience, it gets watered down to the point that it becomes something completely different. So, and I'm still with Wicked in my mind. It was just really nice to see things being embraced for what they are and celebrated for what they are. So similarly to Wicked and all the magic of that, similarly here, they were not going to dumb things down for the audience. It was just like, if you're lost, Google it kind of vibe, which I respect.
Which I did. I did Google it. So I did.
Yeah, I respect that they stood their ground on that, because often they don't, like, not them, but the creator,
other shows, and
nice. I think we've been hitting on this a little bit, but quickly, season 1 or season 2, April, having seen both.
Season 2.
Season 2. I think this.
Yeah. Okay, but there's reasons for that. I think one of the biggest things is that. So I love what they did in terms of animation with season 2. I don't know if you guys know this, but I absolutely love the Spider-Verse movies. God bless those animators. But like it's almost like they took that as inspiration and they were like, how can we do something like that? Because they almost every single episode, they experimented with a different type of animation. Like right off the bat in the first episode, all of those like charcoal drawings were actual charcoal drawings that people like hand did. And then they added in like the animated characters and things like that. Or like making like stylized choices, like whenever you're seeing like Vander/Warwick's view, I think they changed the frame rate down to like, I don't know, I want to say like 24 frames per second or something like that, makes it seem like it's delayed but not quite as delayed. And so like they did stuff like that, and I fully loved all of that. Like I was here for that experience all along the way. Which you kind of get that in season 1, but like some of my favorite like scenes from season 1, I'm like, oh, it's because they experimented with something and they did something different, and it was successful. And so I think with that in mind, I love that. And the other thing too is like the season 1 focuses on like the sisters, right? It focuses on Jinx and Vi, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a very compelling story. But whenever it comes to like the focus of like sisters and that relationship, that I feel like that kind of falls, like it's lost on me just a little bit because I don't have a sister. So I'm like, I can't necessarily relate to the feeling of having a sister. Brothers, that's a different story. Or like found family, which we kind of like see more of in the season 2. Like, absolutely, I'm here for that. So I think that's just part of the reason why season 2 for me is a little bit better than season 1. Not that season 1's not great and I don't love it, but season 2 just definitely hit a little bit more for me.
Very nice. Yeah, I do think they go even harder in the stylistic experimental animation this season. Like so many sequences per episode, so it was very, very cool to see. Beatrice, season 1 or season 2?
Just very briefly, just to say, let's take a moment to just celebrate Fortiche, who is the animation studio that works with Fortiche. I'm so excited for anything and everything that they do. Like, like part of me is like, no, don't keep working with Riot. Do your own thing, tell your own stories, do something.
Right?
But part of me is like also like, no, make more stories with Riot. So it's just like Fortiche can do no wrong in my eyes. And I think season 1's a masterpiece. For me, season 1.
Nice. I will also give shows bigger budgets because I think that's a big factor in
Give
how
them big
incredible
budgets.
Arcane looks. Give them time to like this season takes 3 years to make and give bigger budgets. So it's like, why doesn't this show look like Arcane? Well, it's like not remotely given the same time and budget, and so yeah.
Also, we don't want everything to look like everything else. I think we want animation diversity in style. So,
and I think that's something that like. When you think about when season 1 premiered, like we were huge into like the, like the 3D animation and X, Y, and Z, but everything just looked so similar. And then you throw in this like alternative to the 3D animation and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I like this. Like 1, because it's different, and 2, like it's just so well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll take season 1, but I do think there's some things I like about season 2 more. So I don't think it's so clear cut, but season 1 I think is more consistent. That being said, I'm still evaluating certain things about season 2 or interested in our discussion. Such as I would say maybe the main criticism I've seen of this season, very generic obviously, but I want to start here. Did this season move too fast? I think that's a good question we can start to approach to then get into some of the plot lines where we evaluate it as well. So, April, what's your overall thoughts on that?
Yes, it did move. It moved very fast. Like I would say too fast is an appropriate analysis of it.
Were there any times when it moving fast particularly wasn't working for you?
I think the biggest part of it moving too fast didn't work for me. I would say kind of in the middle-ish, but also like the ending. It just moved so quickly. It was like at one moment we're here and then all of a sudden everyone's back and we're preparing for this final showdown, and it came out of nowhere. Or it kind of felt that way. You know what I mean? Like It was like, here we are in one place and now we're all the way in outer space. Like
yeah. And definitely also seen a lot of like the finale very rushed, which we've talked about. The runtime reduced. Beatriz, too fast, yes or no?
Yes, absolutely. I think there was just so much plot to get through, and there were too many. Which is another issue I had with the season 2, which was the music direction. There was so many. The music was being used way more here to move things along, and to the point that it took me out. And I was like, oh, well, here comes the immersion breaking music video once again to show some change in time where I would have preferred more scenes with characters to just cement their arcs and to flesh themselves out. I think in season 1, they weren't afraid to like stay on a character for a moment, for a beat, to have a scene between two characters that was just for the character work, versus season 2, it was very much gotta get through the plot. I think in season 1, it was much more, there was more intent with everything they were doing with season 1. The pacing of I didn't feel rushed with season 1. Everything just seemed more intentional. Whereas in season 2, from the beginning, everything just felt like we're running out of time. Even from the first 3 episodes to the last 3 episodes, there was just a constant sort of push through. We got to go is the vibe I got from it.
Yeah. So I do think it's too fast. I mean, certainly at certain spots, but I was thinking about it, I was wondering, is the like pace really the issue here? So I think it's kind of interesting to think about. One thought I had, I'm not sure to what extent I fully believe this, but I think it's interesting. Is it that it moves too fast, or are we just trying to pay off stuff that was not fully built up in terms of like the world and the mythology? Because I think it's okay to move fast in your payoff, but
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think the show put in the full time, and they only had 18 episodes in the end, to really build up the world, certain character beats before just kind of zipping ahead with them. I
Right.
wonder if
Yeah.
if this was like season 3 and we kind of had another season of setup, and even if the same stuff happened, it might come across better. I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I
And-
think I think that is a pacing issue, though, isn't it? To if you
Yeah.
had more episodes, not to
Yeah,
add
like
anything new,
overall
but just
with
to
the show.
expand
Yeah.
it, then I think, yeah,
But then,
no, for sure.
but then at what point does it feel too slow? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's
Yeah.
such a weird, like, balance to strike.
Yeah.
And I think one of the, I guess, issues with this show is that, and I mean, it's League of Legends based. And so is we're following so many characters and we're seeing all of these different stories, but like you got 9 episodes per season.
Yeah.
Like like that's a lot to, and then like the other thing on the other half of it too is like they're adding in characters who aren't even from the game. Like
Right.
the whole Ambessa thing, like she was not a champion. She was only just added in like last year, I think. So and like
she was
Mel,
like a few months ago, actually, even newer. Like
Yeah,
she dropped
like,
when
even-
in this Arcane started. Let's say
Yeah.
season 2 started. So it's like
So-
she's not even a year old.
well, and like Mel's not a character in the game.
Well, she
so,
will
like,
be. She will
will
be. She's
be.
like
Yeah.
they announced
She's-
that she will be.
She will be, but like whenever like the show first came out, like you have Mel, and I'm like, I don't know who Mel is. Like I'm not
But
familiar
I'm happy
with her.
she's
enough.
there. Like,
No,
let's
like-
be, like I
no,
want,
no, no,
I
no.
want more. All the Mel. Mel's the most beautifully animated character in existence.
Look, I have no complaints about Mel. She is, whew. But anyway, but like that's, I mean, like they almost like wrote themselves into that problem. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
like, hey, we've got all of these characters, and we're gonna start all of these stories with all of them. And like even like Ambessa, they threw her in at the I say they threw her in, but she wasn't introduced until like the last couple of episodes of season 1, and it's like, cool, now we have another character to follow. And so, and then they're like, by the way, there's only going to be a second season, and you're like, or there's only going to be one more season, and you're like, how are we going to, in theory, wrap up all of this? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard.
I would even argue they don't even need a third season. They could have benefited from even just like one more episode or 2 more episodes. And
Yeah.
it doesn't, and they could have still kept like the 9 episode number, but like the amount of, but sprinkled what would have been the equivalent of like 2 additional episodes, like into
Yeah.
the other episodes to make them longer.
Or do like what is it, like the 4th season of Stranger Things, right? Like that the last episode of the 4th season of Stranger Things is like 2.5 hours. Like you could have done that. Like I wouldn't have
nice.
complained, right? Like, well, and even like the episodes before that, they were all like an hour and a half or something along those lines. So like you could have done that. I mean, I
Yeah, I
understand
mean,
animation is expensive and X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z, but like
Right.
you could have.
I will say that even if we've kept the same runtime, same everything, I do think there's also an issue where I think that and again, this is about music direction. I think that they wasted time giving us like a song insert where it's a montage of something versus, and I'm like, well, if you hadn't done that, if you had used, like, there were moments in the season where I'm like, I don't think that you were using your time as wisely. There were other moments that I thought that they were using it perfectly this season, but there were other moments where I was like, I would have rather had a scene, but here we go. We have to put in the scene to showcase the soundtrack of the show.
I think they also like spend a whole episode this season like completely away from the main plot. In
Yeah.
episode 7,
Right.
which was my favorite episode. I loved it. I was happy that it did ultimately matter in the finale and
Yeah.
stuff. I was
Yeah.
like, is this?
Yeah.
Are they really gonna do 9 episodes and the show in 9 episodes and 1 episode is like completely irrelevant? No, but at least it pays off.
But
was
that's
so
the thing; it's
stressed until we
not
saw it, though.
irrelevant. That's why it's so good because they worked on character. They focused on the character. They focused on like character growth and things that were done in that episode, like the creation of Echo's like time jump thing. could have only happened in that alternate universe. Like there was work that was done and things that were established
I didn't
other characters
the time
that
thing to matter.
yeah,
Cool.
well, yes, but like there were things
I guess
like,
it's about the league, right? There's stuff that I like is core to the league characters that I have no idea
so
about,
it's like
right?
I know that Echo can do a 4-second time jump thing, so I knew that he could do a time bomb.
I was like, Echo's power is the time bomb.
It's interesting me watching with no concept of this. So is another thing, is Vi an enforcer in the game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, it's like this is a
and
wild,
like, and also
quick plot
Victor is like a robotic.
He's like
they're building up to his,
Yeah, I think I remembered in the last podcast we did. I was like, the two characters that I'm most interested in seeing that who are still left to have to go through big transformations were Vi and Victor, because Victor became the robot person, and then Vi was an enforcer, which at the end of season 1 I was like, I don't know how she's going to be an enforcer.
Right. I think Victor to me makes sense as this is an origin story for him, the whole show.
Right. Yeah.
Vi, they go to it right away in season 2, which you could argue one of the more questionable decisions this season. Yeah. Well, let's come back to that. Let's talk about CaitVi, which I thought was called Piltover's Finest, but apparently
it is. It is also called
Piltover's Finest.
They have multiple names.
CaitVi. Just because we're a podcast that talks about queer representation in animation a lot, and we have a big one this season with the payoff to the CaitVi relationship. What was our predictions with them last season? I feel like it's hard to have predicted that they would go so in on this.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that they were going to end up together. Whether or not they survived was a separate thing, but I knew that that was what was like. It was that's the setup. It was being set up. I didn't think that they were going to do like a sort of like queer baity thing. Like I was like, no, this is happening. It's just, I don't know how it's going to happen. Honestly, like the most surprising thing was Maddie. That was the most surprising thing.
Maddie.
Like I watched the show by my own, and then I would rewatch it with friends. And I think that the Maddie thing was revealed in the second act, right? It was the second drop of episodes.
Yes.
And that, like, by the end of everything that happened after those 3 episodes, 4, 5, and 6, the end, all that didn't matter. Isha, no, we have to talk about Maddie. And I was like, really? But yeah, so it was, I knew Piltover's Finest was gonna happen. I just didn't know how.
Right. I think it's one of those things where it wasn't fully like quote unquote explicit in season 1, but it was pretty obvious that they're clearly trying to do this, and it was just the beginning of a story. And I don't know. In my opinion,
they dropped hints all of season 1.
Yeah, they were setting it up. They were setting up the foundation.
Right, and it was more than hints. It's like there's like you see their initial flirting and the foundation of the relationship.
Yeah. The initial flirting, making it very obvious in the brothel that Caitlyn prefers women. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the definitely one of the highlights for me is how there they go with Caitlyn and Vi. This I think a lot to like here. Definitely all kind of intertwined with the character arcs, which we could kind of talk about separately. But Beatriz, in terms of execution of the relationship, what did you think?
So I wish you hadn't started me, but I'm gonna say something, which is are we gonna talk about the sex scene, or do we talk about it? Are we talking about everything? Like, what are we doing?
The 2 highlights are they kiss, and then
the kiss was lovely. The kiss was so sweet. Yes. It was, and also even before the kiss, it was the
hug in the hallway.
The hug in the hallway when Caitlyn breaks down. That to me was like this beautiful moment of vulnerability between them, and and it came after Caitlyn's dad was like, what is she still doing here? And yet Caitlyn still seeks her out and reaches for her and makes sure she doesn't leave. So I will say, part of me wishes there had, again, it's like the criticism of like, I wish there had been more, they had more time. I do think the relationship had been rushed. I don't mind the Maddie thing. If anything, I'm just like if anything, one of my favorite moments for the I guess like the ship in particular is like during the sex scene before it. Caitlin's like, listen, when we were away, I was seeing someone, and Vi's just like, I don't care, and I'm like, exactly, yes, like that's how. Like it didn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We were apart. We were on a break. And again, I just think a lot of the issues I have are less to do with the thing. It's more to do with their individual arcs, and I think because of the individual arcs, that harmed the execution of the thing itself. Like it's just two main scenes. Or three main scenes between them that like there are, I would consider being like the very shippy stuff. Whereas in season 1, there was like, again, there was that intentionality, like very delicate, making sure that everything's set up. Whereas here it's just kind of go. But when the sex scene started, I was like, can you just not have it in the cell where your sister was in? It's so unsanitary, for one. Just do a cut to the bed. You can just do a cut and then move to somewhere else. Like, I understand, like, it's like the desperation and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, in a cell where your sister was locked up and was eating like very nasty food. I'm like, no. I was just like, no, just go to your nice big bed in your house. Like, you could have done like I don't know. For me, I'm just like, it was great. I just wish it wasn't in a cell. I just wish, but so that's my main thing with CaitVi.
Yeah. Okay. I'll restrain. April, generally, CaitVi this season. Your thoughts?
I love that it was as frustrating as any real relationship could be. And I loved like the speed of it all, like just, I don't know. I really, really enjoyed it. And I appreciated that, like, the focus of the relationship and like if they were going to have one sex scene, that it was this one. Whereas like in season 1, like the Jace, like Mel scene with Victor messing around with the Arcane is like really weird. It gives off interesting vibes. Whereas like this one, I was like, whew, yes, I was sweating. But I agree with Beatrice that in a jail cell, come on. But also we didn't have time to move to a bedroom. There was no time for that. The episodes were cut short.
And
just one quick cut. It would have been like a millisecond. Just boom, just kiss, cut to them in the bed.
That's not as dramatic.
They could have been interrupted at any moment between that jail cell and the
It could have been like, if anything, it would have been there. It would have showed their conviction and determination to get to that bed, I think,
Yes, that's good. I think for me overall, I think despite kind of having major issues with like both of these characters' arcs, to be honest, like once they get back together in like episode 5 or around like that, I feel like I was still loving their dynamic, so I feel like the relationship kind of shone through all of that and their chemistry. The kiss was great. Yeah. So this sex scene, first of all, the fact that they went there with not just like that they like imply that they're gonna have sex, that it's like shown in somewhat graphic detail is absolutely wild. I want to give them all the kudos for going there.
Yes.
I did not think we'd see something like this in this show. And, we've been talking about the progression of queer representation animation. I didn't know it was going here, if you want to call it as part of this progression.
Is it bad that I did? I was just like, this is totally going to happen. They're totally going to have sex next season.
I feel like at some point, too, between the seasons, someone like one of the creators or animators or somebody was just like, y'all are not ready for the sex scene that's about to happen. And everyone was like, Caitlin and Vi, yes. Like, I don't know how it was, but I feel like everyone knew it was coming. Like,
I would assume it would be like we see Caitlin and Maddie, and it's just kind of like you see them in bed, right? Like, like that.
Right.
I see. But we see like the them going at it. So that was but I think it's incredible that they showed that in that level of detail. Like apparently there's like it was going to be even longer or something.
Even longer. It was
Yep.
going to be even.
Which
They
is like,
had, you know,
what? How is
Fortitia's
it? How
French.
is it
Fortitia's
longer?
a French. It's a French animation studio, so it was like
How do you go longer?
it was
than
too
this?
French for the executives in Los
You
Angeles.
can
I
very
guess.
easily go longer, Dylan.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
different, like a different type of show, sure, but I guess like it does.
You mean
happen
an
in movies
adult
sometimes.
program? Is
Yeah,
that
in an
not what
adult
we're watching?
programming. No, but no, honestly, it's incredible. The fact that it's like a queer relationship and you show them like actually starting to have sex, it's genuinely incredible. Kudos to everyone for really going for it. I thought the scene was, the actual scene itself was lovely. I will step back and say there's no scene more emblematic of my opinion of the season of Arcane than this sex scene, because at a high level, I was absolutely infuriated by the setup to the scene. But then the scene itself was so great. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
the actual stuff that's happening is so. But the decision to have this previous scene, and I've seen memes about
Yeah.
this that are joking,
Yeah.
but I'm not joking. Like the Jinx implies to her sister, "I'm gonna go kill myself."
No, I would disagree with that. I don't think she implies to her sister, "I'm going to kill myself." It's anything she was
Implies
like,
to
"I'm
the
breaking the
audience
cycle."
that-
It
Yeah.
was to the
Right, so
audience.
to
Like,
us,
that's
that
very
is
important.
Yeah.
Vi does not know this. A lot of people were like confusing, like, Vi totally knows this. How could Vi know this? We know because
Yeah.
we see her with Silco.
Right, so-
We see what's going in her head. Vi doesn't know. Vi has no idea. So
So-
it's like that's not a fair on Vi, I will say.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
not
say,
on Vi. Go
I
ahead.
kind of side with Beatrice on this too, because like Jinx literally, like again, like we understand where Jinx's headspace is in it of this moment. Vi is not there, and she's not witnessing it with us, and so Jinx literally says like, go, like, be happy, be with her, you know what I mean? Because it's funny too, because even Jinx recognizes that she's kind of what's standing in the way between Vi just going for it. And I mean, as horrible as it sounds to say, like, it, like, I'm kind of proud of Vi for just being like, you know what? My sister was right. I should just go for it, even if it's here in this jail cell.
Yeah.
So
I
my
think
my
yeah.
issues are not about Vi's perspective on I think it's like
It's just
the
a
audience.
follow up. It's like
it's
right
okay.
after this, like, oh no,
Yeah.
Jinx is gonna kill herself,
We-
and then Vi's
The-
like, all right, like cut to
con-
Vi, and yeah,
The
we
contrast
as an
of the
audience
scenes
kind
is
of understand
not.
what's going on, yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's like in close juxtaposition. And even if you even if you want to step back and try to say like Vi doesn't know this, we know this, but it's still your reaction as an audience is like, oh, this is what you're doing right now. And there could have been so easy to have some separation here, almost make any other choice. Also, I think Vi should know that something's happening with her. Like,
but
even if not
that's like
specifically.
it's. I don't know. I think it's like I think that's unfair because also like again like Vi and Jinx have been apart for so long and Vi still reaches for her. I think it's more of like it's Jinx is like has the suicidal ideas, but with Vi, it's like Vi's always going to protect her. So for her, it's more of like Jinx is telling her, which by the way, this is after Jinx has shown her that she's honest to Isha. She is like in a way like she shows her like that she's arguably like a better sister to the young child to be like whatever isn't whatever. She's telling her like be happy. We can't be happy together. Is essentially all that she's saying to her. She's like, I'm breaking the cycle. We can't be happy together, which is devastating. And Vi was upset about it. And we don't know how long Vi was in that cell. But if anything, it was...
Yeah.
To us, it seems very quick. But yeah,
It seems
it's
very
true.
quick, but we also don't know, because the other thing to remember too is between episodes 3 and 4, apparently months passed, but they never like
They
say
never
that.
explicitly say it.
The passage of time is not super
Is
clear.
yeah.
To be honest, also Isha makes this kind of even worse. It's like also her daughter just died, and there's
Okay,
it's
so you
like
see her as a daughter. I see her as a younger sister. That's
Yeah, I saw her
interesting.
as a younger
Yeah.
sister too, because
Yeah.
I felt like Isha was like that replacement for the sister that she had but didn't have.
Yeah.
She gains perspective on the Vi and her relationship.
Yes.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
other thing too to point out is that because it's very obvious that yes, Vi is very protective of her sister. She thinks that she knows her, but she also doesn't know her at all, because when Vi first wakes up and they're like, "Hey, we have to talk about Jinx," she's in a holding cell, and Vi immediately is just like, "I can't believe you guys arrested her, X, Y, and Z." And Caitlyn's like, "Whoa, wait a second, like she turned herself in. We didn't do anything." You know what I mean? Like she said, "Okay, here, like lock me up," kind of thing. And so I feel like that's also like a very large hint that like Vi doesn't understand what's going on with Jinx, for Jinx to be like, "Yeah, okay, go ahead, lock myself up." Like, I mean,
these are interesting points.
Yeah.
I think the biggest number one issue is just tonally with the show in quick succession.
It's because it's like back to back, and you're like, this is really weird. Like, I understand.
Yeah, just put any scene in between it, any other scene in between it, to give us a break from it. It could have been a lot more successul. And also move it to the bed, you know.
Yeah.
Or like lay down a tarp or something. I don't know.
Well, up against the wall, right?
You think that wall's clean?
No, definitely not. How about the scene itself? I mean, I think like seeing two like warrior women with muscles and tattoos, I think all that's really incredible. One like minor thing, I don't know if you guys will agree or disagree. I think like I feel like there's no body here. We're getting very granular. I think no like hair scene. I feel like that's a little pretty unrealistic. Maybe it's just animation stylistic. But I think that'd be nice to show positive validation of hair on women and
Bodies,
stuff.
Yeah. Right. No. Yeah. I think, if anything, I feel like it might have been too like they might have had it, and they were like, no, that makes it too mature. Weirdly enough.
Well, the other thing to note too is that all the way up until this point, Caitlyn had this rack, this beautiful rack, the Kira Mountains, as the internet so lovingly called them. And then in this scene, it's like they disappeared almost. Like, what happened? Yeah. Where did the boobs go, ma'am?
Yeah. Not even like, again, and not to get too specific, but also like she didn't have nipples. I was like, where are you? I was less concerned like where the boobs go. I was like, do you even have nipples? What's going on? Are you Barbie? I mean, like,
do we see a direct shot of someone's chest in this?
I don't think so.
No,
like, it's all
we don't.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I mean, it's very tasteful.
You think that jail cell is warm? Where were Vi finally put on a shirt?
And cold. It's a good point.
I will say, in a weird way though, because it was like very tastefully done. Like, I feel like if it had been anything even more so, there it would have set off a conversation of another layer of discourse being like, is this male gazy? Is this not this? Is this whatever? You know what I mean? Which is very tiresome to have. So in a way, I'm like, you know what? It was great. It was great.
That scene
Wish it wasn't
not for the male gaze.
Right. That's probably the biggest thing to say. Yeah.
Exactly.
Overall, it was not done in a male gazy way that you would normally criticize, and so I think that's probably the biggest point. That all a criticism aside, one of the highlights of the season, I think, I don't know. Any more thoughts on Maddie? I thought the Maddie thing was very hilarious. She's like introduced in the first batch. It's like, here's this like sweet new side character, and then the direction she goes in the show.
Let me say that I was watching it with a friend, and I was just like ready to be, like, unwillingly. I didn't want to be, but before the last 3 episodes dropped, I was so ready to be a Maddie defender, just because I was like, they're gonna make her the evil ex-girlfriend in all the fanfics when we don't even know how she's gonna act, whatever. And then the second, like, at the end, when she has the betrayal, the reveal, I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to be a Maddie defender. Fuck that girl.
So graphic ending with like just everything about like I was not prepared for the Maddie
I
ending.
cheered. I was so excited. Whatever she went to go shoot that gun, and then Mel put the protection bubble around her so that it would automatically ricochet into her no matter what. I was like, yes, Mel, you're a girl's girl.
Mel's so Mel can
Look,
do no wrong. Mel can do no wrong.
I think that was a little overpowered, to be honest. I don't think Maddie deserved that in terms of she couldn't have seen it coming. But
I'm sorry, but she goes, "I appreciated your warmth before about to blow her brains out." Like
that's
no,
savage.
No, like,
that's savage.
No.
Yeah, so she deserves a savage ending. Like,
this is a moment of them going there for sure with the high
great.
drama of it.
Loved it.
Nice. Any other CaitVi thoughts?
I'm glad that they lived.
How about their ending? Yeah. Any thoughts on that?
It's like the bar is really in hell when it's like, okay, they didn't die. That's great. Yeah. That's a win. Because
Caitlyn wants to die. That's
yeah,
wonderful.
That's fine. But like they didn't die.
I genuinely thought one of them was gonna die. Like as soon as they kissed, I was like, one of these people is gonna die, and I don't know which one. Like the whole rest of the time, I was like, who's gonna die? Is it gonna be Caitlyn or Vi? Because they can't both survive, right? Like.
Yeah, that's the barrier gaze is strong in society. So I was expecting one of them to not live. Also, because Arcane is not a happy show inherently, it's always about the tragedy. So I was expecting one of them to not make it, and I'm happy that they both did.
Me too.
Probably their happiest possible ending. Even if we're not getting a big kiss at the end. But yeah.
Everyone needs therapy. Together. It's fine.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. Realistic. Okay, let's talk Jinx this season.
Okay.
I tell me you guys agree or disagree with this character. I feel like we end up with somewhat of a straightforward, nothing in the show is straightforward, kind of redemption arc for Jinx in season 2, which I was kind of not expecting. I don't know what I was expecting with her, but I think we hit on a lot of these redemption arc points we kind of see from other shows. And that being said, I thought it was really good. I don't know. April, what do you think?
Okay, so I have a really interesting thought process whenever it comes to, because I know, like, spoiler alert, in our, to the people listening, in, like, our outline, we have, like, a bunch of different, like, demptions on there and everything. And so I think that's something that is great about this game in particular being adapted into a show is that like all of the characters, like alliances, like okay, in League of Legends, no one is a good guy or a bad guy. You are just champions. Like you're just a character and that's what it is, right? Like no one is good, no one is bad. We all have the same objective to not lose. And that's it. And so I think that whenever it comes to like redemptions and things like that, like it was really interesting that in the first season they made like Jinx kind of out to be this villain and Silco was a villain. Like there was very clear lines. But then in this season, we sort of like blur those. And like, I know I heard a lot of people be like, oh, well, I didn't know like who was the good guy and who was the bad guy. And I'm like, but that's the game. Like there is no good guy or bad guy. You pick a character because they have a really cool power, or you like how they look and they've got great skins available, or something along those lines. You don't like go into the game and you're like, I want to be Caitlyn because she's a good guy, or I want to be like, that's not what it is. And so the ambiguity of everyone's, I guess, alliances like is so very well portrayed, even though it's really frustrating if you don't play the game. So I totally understand it. But I think that like it made sense to like have these redemptions, but like not have redemptions at the same time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that analysis with the game. Okay, so I assume Beatriz just added another potential redemption to the outline. So we got to go through these. I want rapid fire.
No, rapid fire.
Is this a redemption? Did this character have a redemption? Jinx, do you guys agree with me that she had?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, yes and no.
But sorry.
No, I was going to say, it's like yes and no, because, like, she, quote-unquote, came to the good side, but, like, she was still just, like, acting of her own, like, I say selfishly, if that makes sense. Like, she was still like, I'm just going to do whatever makes sense for me. I don't care about other people. I mean, I guess at the end she was like being nice to Vi by like letting her go, but
I think the ending is one of the biggest arguments because she does the classic redemption arc move of she sacrifices herself at the end.
But
That's
does
kind
she?
of the number one thing.
And it's just
regardless of whether she's alive, I think she's going through the motions of sacrificing
we'll get
herself.
to that, which I have a very firm answer from me, in my opinion, of whether she lives or not. But I don't know what redemption even is anymore. I don't know if it's because I've gotten older and it's because I just like, it's all gray, whatever. But it's because so many times with redemptions is people treat it as, okay, you're redeemed, so you're absolved of all the crimes you've done before. And it's like, can you erase those things? What is this? And I feel like in general society, or rather like maybe in just online discourse and stuff, people are just so desperate for like to be the morally superior person. So they're so desperate for like redemptions to be this thing where like the character now has to be squeaky clean and stuff. And I don't think that's what this show is about. This show is about people who make mistakes, and they sometimes take lessons from those mistakes that are the wrong lessons. Sometimes they take the right lessons. And it's just like, I feel like I'm more interested in asking the question, have these characters healed? Have they become better people? Are they going down the right path now than they were before? So like, for instance, with Jinx, I would say, I think she's healed, because not healed, but like she's in a better place at the end of the show than she was in the middle of the show when she was contemplating suicide, when all this stuff. I think, like going down the list of all these people that I added Victor to, it's like some of them, it's only like a second where they're suddenly like, oh, like someone's still fighting for me. I'm finally going to accept their love. I'm thinking of Jace and Victor in this situation where it's like Victor until the end, like, and then goes and becomes this kind of, tries to brainwash everyone into being robots, and then it's like, oh no, but like his redemption, like, I don't know, it's just, and there's just this thing about like putting actions into like a scale of like, okay, do your good actions outweigh your bad? And for some people, the value of the bad, for depending on the person who's watching the show, how they value each bad decision made by each character depends, like, is valued differently. So it's just like, I'm not interested anymore in redemption. I'm more interested in, is this person trying to do better now?
Yeah. I think fair, and I think this whole like character redemption, I think it's like very much like a 2010s decade type of thing that we're kind of applying here, and I think shows have kind of gone away from it. But that being said, I'm proposing it as more of like just a narrative arc. So I feel like Jinx, the show, despite I agree with what you guys are saying in terms of the show's overall intentions, I feel like they were. Went through the motions. They gave her a younger person to take care of, to sympathize her with the audience. She like apologizes at some point, or kind of does like a whole thing about that. She sacrifices herself. Well, first of all, she thinks about killing herself. That's another thing along the redemption. Like, how does someone deal with their past sins?
Yeah.
She ultimately doesn't. Then she sacrifices herself. Like, we kind of hit on a lot of these things here, and I do think, for me personally, as a person that really struggled with Jinx in season 1, I know that's not a common sentiment. I think she's very popular. I struggle with characters that kill a lot of people. So it's a lot of the people in the show. She was a lot more sympathetic to me this season, I think, because a lot of these steps, and she does kind of stop killing people to some extent. So I think that is a big step as well.
At some point, she decides not to just create chaos for the sake of chaos. Right. Like, and even like with Caitlyn, she has that line where she's like, I didn't know your mom was in that building, but honestly, I don't even think it would have mattered. Like, that's such a real.
Yeah, I'm being honest. Yeah.
Like, that's honest. And that's like, that's being human almost. And I think that's another one of the things that's like really great about this show is, and I read in like an article, I think the way that they described it is that this is like an animated love letter to like the beauty of being human. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Because no one's perfect. Like, we all make mistakes and we all do bad things. But like, I think it just matters what where we go from there.
Yeah.
I will say, I think this was brought up earlier, but episode 7, I think, also contributes to this, like, whatever arc, Jinx redemption, whatever arc you want to say, in terms of her positive kind of view with audience. You see this alternate universe, and you just see how much of, like,
she's
terrible
a
thing
victim
she
of
is now,
circumstance.
how much it is, which
Yeah.
is of her circumstance, which I think the show is very clear on. But
Yeah.
seeing it is very striking to see the opposite side of it. So I think that is also very much contributes to culminating her
for
character
sure
in a more positive way.
Part again, I'm trying to engage with the show with what meet it where it's at, but part of me wishes that it had, if the main focus had still been the divide between Piltover and Zaun and like the systemic oppression and dealing with that head on, then I think we could have had a more interesting conversation about redemptions and then how do you do better, because at the end it just became Victor just created this sort of like enemy that everyone can unite against. So in a way, it's like, does that absolve what you've done before? Who gets to decide who's redeemed and who's not? It's like, I think, what is justice? What is not? Like, what is how do you break this cycle of like revenge and all this? It's, and like forgiveness and who has the right to forgive and whatever. I think, the show, given the direction it went, I don't think it might have had themes of redemption, but I don't think at the end of the day it was interested in redemption. Like it did it's not about redemption. I think it's about just trying to be better.
Yeah.
Which isn't redemption, in my opinion.
So, some of my criticisms of this plotline, I think, related to this. I think at one point, the scene April mentioned, it seemed to be implying that Jinx was bad because she did what she did at the end of season 1. Like that was like something she had to reckon with. That was like a specific thing that the show was interested in. Now, whether it was just characters talking or whether that's what the show overall believes in its themes, I don't know. But like I felt like I was getting the impression that Jinx was bad at the end of season 1 and she needs to redeem herself from that, is to some extent what at least some characters are saying. And I did not understand why we're also not interested in her killing random people like in the beginning of the season.
Right.
Not just like counselors at the end of season 1.
No, yeah. I think that's why I kind of wish we had kind of still kept the focus on that kind of class divide. Because then I think that could have been explored more. But instead that we didn't get that. I understand why, for instance, for Caitlyn, she focus was on her mother's death because it was her mother. So that's why she is the one who's focusing on that. But where was the Echo or the Vi or the, I don't know, or the Savika who is like, what about all these other people you killed? Who are your own people? What about all these other innocents? But
and it also just kind of like speaks to, I guess, the differences between like Piltover and Zaun in terms of like death, because like in Zaun sometimes you have to kill people in order to survive. Whereas in Piltover, that's not a, like, if you kill somebody, that's a bad thing. You know what I mean? So it's like a difference at looking at, I mean, it's a product of the circumstances.
Yeah.
So and then whenever you cross those two things over, like Jinx did, then it's is very catastrophic. And then, but I mean, I don't know. It's just so interesting because that like the separation of like the Zaun and Piltover was like such a theme of the first season, and then it's kind of like in the end that's not what mattered. We just needed something to come to put us all together, kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, let's continue on this since we're talking about it. Zaun Piltover, we've made the criticism they transfer to the new. I mean, am I correct to call this like a hive mind thing going on? With the plot line at the end. So
the glorious evolution.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, since we put Victor on the redemption table, I feel like this is not the same character as season 1. So I don't know so I don't know if we can redeem. Like it's just kind of like it's him integrated with the whatever, right? So
The
I don't know. I didn't
Arcane.
or the what's the thing in the beginning he gets healed from? Yeah.
The
So
Arcane.
well,
His
isn't
his
everything
illness. He
the
has like a
Arcane?
illness. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the box, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Um, what is Heimerdinger? But someone said Heimerdinger.
Okay,
What did
me.
Heimerdinger
Okay, because
redeem from?
I think my point is the one person I think who I can confidently say did have a redemption of sorts is the one person who, like, the show doesn't even. I feel like the show doesn't even like actually actively want to show you that he needed and did and had one, which is Heimerdinger, because Heimerdinger is like thousands of years old. He was the longest running counselor. He was like on the council for how long?
Piltover.
Yeah, he founded
I
Piltover.
forgot
He
about
was
a
like
lot of
on
this
the
stuff.
council since forever, and yet it was his ignorance that led to the systemic oppression of Zaun. And yet my biggest critique of season 1 was that Echo was way too cordial with him, despite being so suspicious of everyone else. And it's like, hello, buddy, he had the influence and the power to improve society for so long, and yet he didn't. But then in season 2, remember when in episode 7, he appeared earlier than Echo. He was there for years. And what is the reason that Zaun is different is not because Vi died. It's not because like Hextech did not flourish. It's because Heimerdinger got off his furry little butt when he was in a position of power and decided to actively work to dismantle the systemic oppression of Zaun in the years cut into it, and that's why it had the foundation to flourish and to improve and be that perfect alternate timeline. So I think if we're going to comb through each and every action of like characters of like, did they redeem themselves, did they not, I think the only one I think that you could say like actively did it and it was all off screen was Heimerdinger. Everyone else is still in this kind of messy sort of thing where it's like once he was actually given the opportunity to go back in time and redo everything he did, and you see the
results of his work.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I like that so much, and that like contributes to the fact of why he's so determined and willing to sacrifice himself to get Echo back, because he trusts in Echo to bring, to like help bring that about. And so I think that, wow, that makes it even a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah, I will say I learned some League lore that boggled my mind, which is that apparently Yordles, which is what Heimerdinger is, can't die. They're immortal.
Yep.
So he's not dead. Like he's gonna reappear somewhere, but he didn't die. Yordles can't die apparently.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't think they know that in the show, but.
And how about Caitlyn as posited redemption? That's an interesting one.
Caitlyn's such a gray area. Like, because she's
one
still.
difference with. I would say one difference with Jinx is I feel like the things Caitlyn wants to redeem from happen like this season. It's kind of all in the same season. Jinx as last season for the most part.
Like Jinx had Jinx had the time. They gave Jinx the time to like sit with what she's done, whereas with Caitlyn she does the things in this season, then has to go. There's been a lot of discourse about Caitlyn online. I will say that like for what the show, I don't think like some people think like, oh, justice wasn't done, but she lost an eye and she gave up her seat in the council, which is something I didn't even notice until someone pointed it out at the end.
Really? Yeah, she gave it to Silvika.
Yeah, to Silvika and to Zaun. So she's no longer.
I know Silvika's on the council.
But it was her seat. It was Caitlyn's seat.
Up her seat.
The Kiraman seat. She gave it up for them. So, but this is why I want to avoid like redemption stuff. Is just because then you have to be like, well, this person did this and then they did this and now we have to weigh it and who gets to decide, blah blah blah. Well, and it's like, it's a whole thing.
I was gonna say it's literally like Vi says, like who gets to decide. Like who decides who gets a second chance? Like and again, like that isn't that just like the human experience? Because it's nice in like shows and in make believe, oh, you can do this 1 or 2 acts and that immediately makes you a better person and you've been redeemed. Whereas in real life, it's like that's not necessarily how it goes. And I think Caitlyn's a good example of that as well, because in season 1, she expresses her prejudices about like Zaun and the Zaun Knights. And then in season 2, like that all comes to like a head and she acts upon those prejudice. And then, but like, it's one of those like, okay, well, how do you make it better from there? You know what I mean? Like, so I think like it's the little things that help, if that makes sense, like by giving up her seat on the council, like, and giving it to Sylvika, who like, honestly someone should have been there the entire time. Why wasn't anyone there? Like, so I think it's things like that. And also like coming to the realization, like, well, in their own like selfish way, like her family was responsible for like ridding the Undercity of the Gray. So
right.
Even though she did use like weaponize that, but okay.
And Vi. Yeah. Caitlyn is like, compared to Jinx, who has these like classic maybe narrative redemption arc steps. Caitlyn, it's more just like she stops being the villain and starts kind of working with the good guys.
Shitty.
It's a lot subtler. And it is maybe more realistic, and she just stops doing harm. So I don't think she's like in a narrative sense redeemed. She's just kind of like. Which is probably, you could argue, like a lot more realistic of a situation. And I kind of find it interesting that there's nothing like super significant happening to her or whatever.
Yeah. It's like, I think it's like it's in the aftermath. Like we're literally like what she does moving forward. It's like the redemption starts now.
That's what matters. Yeah.
This is when you start seeing like, okay, now that the world is an ending, now what are you going to do and how are you going to make up for it? And we see it very, 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 very briefly, and you kind of have to really pay attention in the epilogue, but it's just those are the initial decisions. What are you going to actively do now to make up for what you've done? So it's like kind of like that.
Yeah, I agree. Going back to Jinx, I do want to compare her to Catra. I think it's a very similar character in my opinion.
Yeah.
The last season, I think, of both characters ends up being this kind of like
redemption.
Yeah. I think ends up being a similar-ish fates and actions, and less. The redemption's not important. Just ends up appearing a lot more sympathetic to like the audience and to the main character, other main characters. So I think ultimately kind of ends in similar play. The big difference I think with the two characters is Catra has like a lot more time to play with her previous self. And the show didn't give Jinx necessarily that time, but the time we did spend with it was good. That's why you might in the end consider. I think that's the sort of thing that would have benefited more build up. And
I think they showed hints of like Jinx, quote unquote, being better in her. I say in like her own ways, but like whenever you think about like how she became an icon. And she was like the hero and they're like the savior of Zaun. And she was just like, I don't want anything to do with that because all it's going to do is just incite violence. And I mean, again, like violence to a much larger scale of, them just like, hey, we're trying to capture you or to turn you in. I don't know if that's making sense, but
I think that's such a like, that sort of little bit of her arc of like her it's like of her being deemed as like she became a scapegoat for Piltover, and for Zaun she became this figure, and it's like I swear I'm not trying to like make this about Wicked, but like there's a song called Popular in it, which very much is about like how people perceive you and how like and the relationship with how you perceive, then how that impacts you and you perceive yourself. Like Jinx for so long thought that she was a curse, this like unstable, like wrong, like she's bad, and she has this deep shame and self-hatred, hence the suicidal thoughts later on, and that she still struggles with. And yet here were these people she doesn't know who were calling her a hero. Like there's a moment when she breaks everybody out of the prison in Stillwater, and they just start touching her shoulder, patting her shoulder, and she like at first is so scared that she's gonna get hit, And then it's like, oh no, I have to relearn affection because I'm so used to not receiving it and not receiving this sort of treatment from people looking up to me. And it's like it also just, and later on she's like to Vi, like, haven't you heard? I'm a hero now.
Well, I was gonna say it's such a joke to her too. Like she, like even whenever she's getting ready to go break people out, she's like, it's me, the mistress of evil. Like I'm here.
Yeah. But it's all it's just, but it also just kind of shows it's her making light of how people perceive her, but it really does. That's really what starts to change, where she now is thinking like, I can be good. I can be a hero. I have that in me. I don't have to like that. Like if someone sees it in me, maybe I can see it in myself. Yeah. It's kind of, so it's one of those things where it's like is redemption, like there's so much about perception that is tied to redemption, if that makes sense.
And her taking an Isha, like, is another sort of like form of that as well.
Any Isha thoughts briefly? Isha's
Isha.
tragic sacrifice.
Oh, Isha.
Sweet Isha.
I think I saw a tweet that someone had tweeted when the show was airing, that they were like, never have I seen a character that is so going to die more than Isha. And I'm like,
so sad.
But yeah, the death flags were there.
Yeah, they were there. I think that it would have been nice to have had more of Isha, but I think if the purpose of Isha was for Jinx to learn, then she was a successful character, even though her ending, all of it is very tragic, and I cry every single time that I watch it. But I think like if you're looking at Isha in terms of like Jinx and her growth and her character arc, like Isha was a very successful character. And yeah.
I think maybe more of a plot device or a character movement device than a character
but it was
herself.
She was effective. She was an effective plot device.
She was an effective, and even though it was very obvious that that's what she was, like, again, it was very well executed. Whereas, like, sometimes you're like, oh, this is literally a plot device, and like you know it from beginning to end. Whereas this one, you're like, this is a plot device, and I'm here for it. Right. So.
Yeah, and I do like her big scene in episode 6. I think, in my opinion, Arcane can sometimes be melodramatic on the side of. So I think that, but effective. Like I think compelling. I think that scene reminds me of the end of episode 3 of season 1, that sort of thing. But yeah, okay. We don't have too much time to get into each. How about quickly? Is Jinx still alive? What are our thoughts?
Yes, absolutely.
Is the Beatriz, is the evidence from that video that we posted? I did review the evidence from the end of the episode. It seems good evidence.
I was gonna say I put the April. It's this one. So if you need to go see the video, and Caitlin knows too. That's the other half of it.
But for me it was because in the first season, Powder says, one day I'm going to fly on one of those.
I'm going to fly away on one of those.
On one of those. And then it just, and then, so like, why cut to that and just show it for no other at the end, then just a wink nod, like she's going, I hope she goes to Demacia and meets Lux, but that's just me. But yeah, so I think she's totally, she's alive. I think she's totally
alive.
And like I like that, and if it's true, then I like that a lot more than a self-sacrifice, because this is a character who was suicidal, and her learning that no, I can break the cycle and still live. It doesn't have to be from my life.
Because with her initial mental conversation with Silco, like he's like, oh well, like in order to end the killing cycle, like you have to walk away. And in her current frame of mind, she's like, walking away is eliminating myself. Whereas like I also wonder too, like the conversations that she has with Echo that we didn't get to see after he comes back and stops her from killing herself. Like I feel like a lot of that also probably helps feed in and better support the idea of her just like go like piecing out of there instead of like dying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm convinced by that, man. So maybe a cameo in a
Yes!
future League show or something. You know,
I
maybe
think
they can show up.
I think there's someone that she's like really good friends with in the game.
Lux.
Yes. And they talked about going to
Demacia.
Lux's. Yep. Mm-hmm. So I can't remember those names.
Okay.
I just remember Noxus because, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, so we will see. Let's go, we're introducing him before. Let's get back to not going to be able to spend a ton of time on anything, but Piltover's on the show's portrayal. Most of the season, I was this is one of my like things I like the least about the season's approach at a high level. I was I like, what is the show trying to say, you know, about the systemic oppression Piltover's on? Like, I was kind of like waiting for it to say something more specific.
Yeah, it didn't say
Yeah.
anything.
It didn't.
And then there's one scene I feel like we got in episode 8 where Jinx talks to her vision of Silco. And then I feel like it was kind of trying to say something with the break the cycle. So now maybe this is just characters' perspectives, but Silco says he wished he walked away instead of trying to eliminate his jailers in this killing cycle.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I like love and hate the scene again, as with a lot, because I like that it was trying to say something, whereas I feel like we didn't get a lot of thematic specificity before. But you know, man, do I not like this? What they're trying to say in terms of, and then it's like find a third way, right? Like we get into that, and I don't think the show gives us a third way. I think it's like let's team up against the hive mind, and I didn't find that particularly compelling. And I wish I didn't kill my jailers. The show seems not interested in culpability of people in power against those like who are oppressed. Like it to me, it does not seem particularly interested in holding Piltover to the file to whatever, right? Like actually killing those counselors was wrong. You get those impressions this season. It's not like, well, maybe they're the really evil ones for instance for instituting this like terrible and perpetuating this terrible system, which the show is not specific about what the system consists of. So I don't really know, but it's hard for my mind. This is kind of the key point. When I'm watching the season, it's hard for my mind not to go to real world comparisons of, and I'm not going to get into specific details. It's like, then there's many things you could go to. And it's like, in any of these comparisons, I would not have the perspective that the show is really seemingly having here. Like, it's wrong to like resist my jailers. Is that their moral at the end here?
Yeah.
I do not like this message. Now, if their message is let's not killing leads to more killing, that's what they're trying to say. But it's like, okay, what instead? It doesn't give me anything here.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of my main
No,
point.
yeah.
So.
No.
I found overall just thematically very frustrating everything surrounding this.
I agree.
100%.
Especially because that was such a huge focus in season 1.
Exactly. I thought like that we were, I thought
And
that's where we were
like,
heading.
I feel like the most that they kind of even like hint at is, I mean, they don't even hint at it unless like you want to use Jace's experience in the alternate universe, where he literally goes through like the metaphorical struggle that Victor went through. But like,
I think there's like one thing about when they're researching, they're getting to the wild rune. It's like here's like where the waste of the hex tech goes, it disproportionately affects Zaun. I thought that was like really interesting you know, but it really doesn't do anything. We don't go kind of past that. And again, we don't seem like, okay, well, these people are like dumping everything into like, but that's not bad, but we're not gonna try to do anything about this.
Yeah.
And the last thing is, our final solution is one seat for Savik on the council. Now things are fixed. Is that what we're saying? I mean, that's not necessarily what they're saying.
I don't think they're saying that anything's fixed. I think it's I think it's just it's like saying okay, maybe they're taking steps in the right direction.
I like better now that you guys said that that's more of like a Caitlyn giving up her seat. I like that better on like a specific character level, because if it's like, oh, we're heading in the right direction with one seat for Zaun, where Zaun will now be outvoted every single time, like that, this is not a
right.
Well, and I think the other half of that too is that like they chose to inject a real world scenario, more or less, into a game that doesn't have that. And so, like, I think it's another, I guess, I don't know if it's a failure of the adaptation because it's a video game that they've adapted into a show, but like, it's a character-focused game, so it's going to be a character-focused show, and which is why, like, I think with season 1, you know, they have that, the Piltover Zaun conflict, and I'm like, okay, I get it, and I, you know, obviously we can all relate to that, but in in terms of the grand scheme of things, like, you're just injecting something into another thing where it doesn't exist. So,
I mean, I don't know if it doesn't exist because Piltover and Zaun like existed. Like, if anything, it's just. I think if anything, they just added story. There was no story,
exactly,
and now they added story, which was the point of the show. It developed kind of like story.
It's kind of like that conflict is a plot device to drive the character development.
I will say that I think that's honestly the biggest mistake the show, like on top of like the pacing stuff, but in terms of just decisions, I think it was a disservice to the show, especially after the focus on it in season 1, to then just kind of brush it aside.
Agreed.
I don't know if it's because they just didn't have an answer, but I thought, again, this is me with the Jinxdemption. I'm like, that's it. That's you just have to say it. Just be clear about it. But they don't.
I do like that interpretation.
They don't really. They're not very that clear about it. So it's just kind of like, you know, it's like it's one of those things where it's like it's a tragedy, but also it's like, what could you have done? How do you stop this kind of machine? Like it's such a. How does one stop systemic oppression? I feel like if we had an answer, we would have already implemented it in real life right now, and we don't have it. But
which is probably why it's also really frustrating, is because it's like, it's one of those things where you're like, what's the answer? Because we would really love to know, genuinely.
Yeah.
Like,
and I do not think Arcane would be the one
the place to answer that question 100%. So. But I do wish that they had actually, even again talking about like big swings, I do think they kind of just like ran away from that. They ran away from that conflict because they felt uncomfortable with it and they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know how to resolve it. And I don't think the answer is like they could have still explored things in it and not really resolved it. Maybe done like steps in the right direction. But I would have loved to see a conversation between Savika and Caitlyn, where Savika is just like, you think this is going to make up for all this? Or I would have loved a conversation with Echo and Heimerdinger where Echo's like, well, in season 1, where it's like, wait, but you were in charge of this the entire time, and this is how bad it got. You know what I mean? I wish there had been more holding people, like, even if it's not like in a judicial way, holding people accountable, even in a conversation through like actions and emotions, having someone hold someone accountable in that sense. Vi kind of does it with Caitlyn, like being like, yeah, I leave and suddenly you start doing all this stuff. They had like after with like when they're once she wakes up with Jinx and is like mad about her Jinx being in the cell. But yeah, it's just one of those things where this was of all the things in this, of all the swings they made, this is the one where I was like, this isn't a big swing. If anything, it's a tepid sort of running away.
Yeah, I like that. I agree. By the way, Savika, I feel like did not even talk in the last batch of episodes.
No.
She had scenes because her voice actress like took a picture of herself recording scenes of that in that moment, but it was cut.
So fun.
Again, victim of the runtime.
It was cut. Yeah.
How about the plot stuff? Any commentary? Wild Rune, Anomaly, the Hive Mind plot line. I want to eventually get in on Jace Victor, but first, any thoughts on how any of the plot stuff's handled here?
I like the animation.
Yeah,
I like the animation of like the universe stuff, and then eventually when Jace and Victor, like at the end when it changes from like that really like 3-dimensional stuff, then it goes into 2D, which someone, I don't remember who, did this like really interesting interpretation where they were like, you know, it's like going back to hand 2-dimensionally animated things, and how that is the antithesis of like technology in animation, I guess, and how that is. And going back into that to show that that's the thing about humanity and all that. Also, just a Victor shout out. I really do love. There's this one. It was what was it at the end of episode 6 where he was just like, "That's it. Everything's the same, two sides of the same coin. Like we all do what we do, good or bad, for the same reason, which is love," which I thought was really nice. But yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea what was happening in the finale.
That's okay.
With everything, but it was cool. It was vibes. I thought it was more vibes than plot.
Yes,
and,
that great
it was all
vibes.
very beautiful.
Great vibes. Love the vibes.
What did I wrote down that they fix everything by being the Victor was the hooded figure who told Jace they're true bros, and so then they fix everything as true bros together. So what's the nature of this at the end? I've seen a lot of people shipping them.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've been shipping them since season 1.
Yeah.
But it was in season 2 that I was like, all right, I'm on board. Yeah, all right.
I'm here
I
for
see.
this relationship.
Like I'm all for in every timeline, you are the one, you're my one constant. I'm a sucker for that. So, that's where I stand on it.
Especially whenever, Jace says those things like, I never saw you as broken, and my heart.
Yeah.
I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Like not necessarily never seeing the flaws in someone else, but like not seeing those quote unquote obvious flaws or things like that. Like how do you not think that they're in love in their own way? Like maybe not necessarily romantically,
whatever it means to them.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe not.
Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, but they're definitely in love, like for sure. They love each other, even and they hint at that even in the beginning. Whenever Jace is just like, I just want my partner back. Like, yeah, why wouldn't you? Victor's a great guy. I mean, until he's taking over everyone's minds, but whatever.
Original actual Victor behind all the which I guess is who it is at the end. I don't know. Yeah. It was
yes,
it was
because
nice
I think at some point the Arcane kind of takes over, which is why they do like the voice alteration and things like that, is to show that like Victor's there, but he's also not there. So
yeah, cool. Vi. So I think we talked a lot about Vi already, but her becoming an enforcer in the first batch, very very fast. My biggest commentary on Vi is like I just found it very. This isn't even like a quality commentary. I just found it very hard to watch when she starts like talking about Zaun as like them and stuff, like as if it's been like as if it's like not her people, and she like essentially becomes a traitor to her people, and she like leads a strike squad that like poisons her this was a character. This was a character I loved in season 1, and I started despising her and right away. This is a big swing change we went with her.
The writers hated Vi. So
and she was also not present in 2 of the episodes this season. They definitely did a lot less with her this season.
Yeah. Like where I think I would say like she was like the main or one of the 2 main characters of season 1. Season 2, she definitely, and to a detriment to her arc. It hurt not having that time with her. And I understand wanting like time for everybody else. This isn't me saying less time with everybody else. It's again this going back to I wanted more. Don't change, don't take away anything from what we got. Just add more. And I wanted more Vi just to, stay with her and really have her ponder over this decision. I'd like that Jinx would throw it at her, being like, you're an enforcer now. Like, you know what I mean? But
I think that's kind of what she needed too, was to have it thrown at her. I mean,
and she didn't stay. That was just an act 1 thing. She didn't keep going back to being an enforcer.
She has the redesign and boxing stuff, fighting stuff. I think everything's cool with her once we get back into that.
Yeah, but it was definitely
not like a ton
painful.
going on, but
it was definitely painful.
I almost wonder too, like if it was one of those things where it was like, oh, she's doing it for her girlfriend. I mean, her not girlfriend, because they weren't together in theory at that time. So it's like she doesn't have her sister. So then who can she latch on to? Oh, Caitlyn.
Right. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was just like, I did it to keep keep her in check.
Yeah.
You know? Like, keep Caitlyn in check. I think she could already sense it. She was already sensing that she was going to spiral.
But also, if you think about it, too, in terms of, like, Act 1, that's kind of what she does. Like, if it wasn't for her being there and saying, hey, let's send the other people home, and, hey, you know what I mean? Like, all of those things, like, those, I say small decisions that Vi made, but it almost is kind of like, hey, keep Caitlyn in check. Like, why are we, that guy confessed, great, but, like, why are we putting him in prison? Or, like, that's just a child. And, okay, yes, I understand Caitlyn's a great shot. But, like, at the same time, like...
It's a child. Don't do that.
It's a child. Like,
it's a child.
Like, that's great, you're a great shot. But also, like...
Also, I love that moment with Isha just being, like, hugging Jinx, and Jinx just being like,
get off
she's
me.
Like, no, I'm gonna hug you. And then that shot of Isha and Jinx with Savika like covering them when the whole thing goes. And I'm just exactly, I was like, family. Where's the Savika, Jinx, Isha like AU?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got it for like that time period of
that very brief moment.
We got it during that.
For the characters, it was probably longer.
Long time, but for us,
I was gonna say, well, we also got it in the next episode ish, because what is it? Like, Savika's like, she just like walks in and she's just like, I would have liked to have known that you were doing something, and Jinx is like, what are you talking about? Like, that's her mom.
That's her aunt. That's her aunt.
That's her auntie.
Her aunt who steps up.
Auntie Savika.
Yeah. Speaking of the time period, I would have liked to have stayed longer, and I guess was when we're at the Victor's high camp, like his little cult location. I was that's this example of the show. Like, it spends like 5 minutes there before we start the conflict. I would have loved to have. It's just like such a beautiful location. First of all, it's just gorgeous animation. I don't know. That was the time when I was most invested in everyone going on. You know, it's like, oh, we stop hating everyone. I think Jinx and Vi. We haven't really talked about it, but I think getting those two back together and like their dynamic again, I think that was like a huge thing.
Oh, 100%. I really struggled with episodes 1 to 4, but the minute Vander was reintroduced and it was about, and the focus went back to Vander, Jinx, and Vi, suddenly the show gained this momentum and this breath that was the season 1 vibe that I was like, okay, now we're full steam ahead. Now I'm comfortable. Whereas everything else, so definitely those first 3 episodes definitely felt like they were trying to move all these pieces into place so that for the rest of the show they could just run and do it. I think the hug between all of them in episode 5.
I was gonna say it's even in like those moments of like them fighting in the tunnel, right? Like, oh, you're just mad because I whipped your ass. I'm sorry, what? Like, and then they're scrabbling, like the fighting over the TV remote.
Yeah, one relates one thing. One of my favorite parts of the season we haven't even talked about yet. The Vander flashbacks. We meet Felicia. I just thought everything with a few, like 2 episodes, I think, of these flags, they're gorgeous. The tone I thought was like very like sentimental, and I loved every part of the flashbacks we got and how it was integrated. Yeah.
I thought they were very well integrated, for sure.
Yeah, we meet Felicia. It's like, oh wow, she looks a lot like Jinx. I thought that was really effective. And then we go and we see like this alternate looking Jinx with powder definitely was kind of firing on all cylinders for me in that kind of aspect. Okay, other. Go ahead.
No, sorry. What other what?
I was gonna just say, anyone we haven't talked about enough who we want to briefly talk about here at the end.
I have 2 things. 2 very briefly. First thing is about episode 7. I think Powder has like all the hex tech orb stuff at the end, and now that she knows that there's a Vi out there that exists, she's gonna try and find her. She's gonna try and jump times. That is my theory. But then the second thing is, we need to talk about Mel and Mbessa. I think that they're great. I am so sad that Mbessa is a complex character. She does things, yes, but also I was about to say something I don't want recorded. Never mind. I just really like her, and I think Mel's whole thing, and yes, she's an original character of the show who's eventually going to be in the game, but I think they set up Noxus really well, and I'm really excited to see what Mel ends up being, that her embracing her power, her level up, and her thing with her magic and all that. I'm so excited. I like the black roses. I was like, who's this? And her the switch up where she's like, you thought I sided with you, but no, I'm siding with my mom. Boom. And I just think Mel is wonderful. And
is Black Rose not from the game?
It
is. It is.
Okay.
So it's another faction in the game.
Yeah.
So
I really wish we got more time with Mel. That's kind of one of my main takeaways this season. Not a lot of I like what we got from her. I thought she's super cool. Not a lot of explanation especially for me who doesn't know what's going on. It's just kind of stuff happening.
No, yeah. I think because they've already mentioned that Noxus is a place that they want to explore. I'm like, well, that Mel was a setup. Mel is our way into Noxus, I feel.
Yeah. And I feel like they we didn't get as much Mel because we're going to get more Mel. Whereas with the other characters, we're just not going to we're not going to see them ever again, potentially.
Or if we do, it won't be for a while.
Yeah. Or it's just going to be a brief mention of them or something along those lines. Whereas we know, I think it's very much confirmed that Noxus is where we're going next, given the fact that the whole setup with Mel.
Yeah.
She's now the leader over there. The characters that they've hinted at coming up, aka Darius is one of them, who is definitely from Noxus, also, and then Swain.
Yeah, with the Arabian.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm way more excited than I probably should be. But so I think that what we got to see of Mel was incredible. I can't wait to see more of Mel. I feel like that's more or less confirmed, but she is beautiful. And Bessa, I was very I didn't know how to feel about her because much like Mel, I was like, I don't know you. Who are you? In season 1 especially, I was like, who are you? What are you doing here? This is League of Legends, aka Arcane. But this season, I really enjoyed getting to see them more, getting to know more about Noxus and what their values are and their people. So I enjoyed those two characters.
Yeah, I think Ambessa this season was a pretty interesting villain until she's kind of I'm going to side with the zombie army.
Yes.
Even though
it's
and
then
everyone.
My favorite part is whenever Jinx shows up in the final battle and she's like, I don't know what to do now. Everything's done for at this point. She's scrambling.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
Also, the fight sequence, the fight between Ambessa versus Mel and Kate, so good. It was so good.
Loved it.
I think one of the highlights of the finale for sure.
Yeah.
Echo. I was gonna coming into episode 7. I was like, Echo. So Echo, my favorite character in season 1. I was like, wow, we're not getting any Echo. Just some stuff within to the WoW. And then we get episode 7, and it's incredible. And I love Echo, and I love that episode. And he gets his due in the finale. So yeah. I thought that was
Mel and Echo are just the heroes of the finale, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Echo is the boy savior. They joked that was his quote unquote nickname in season 1, but it was so very true in this season. Yeah. And he deserved so much better. And his story in this season is so tragic because he literally was transported into a world where he got everything that he wanted.
And he still went back. He's still no,
still left.
I have people who are counting on me.
I was also, after episode 3, literally every single episode up until 7, I was just like, where's Echo and Heimerdinger? Where are they at? When are we going to see them again? And they're like, April, we're going to see them. I'm like, yeah, but when? Because I'm very concerned for them. Especially after Jace comes back and, kills Sallow.
How he does, yeah.
But looks how he does. I'm like, oh no, why didn't they come back? But then we saw it. I think episode 7 is so great. Because we get to see so much more of Echo and
we ship Echo and Powder.
Yes, ship Echo and Powder.
And I guess Jinx,
Yeah.
in the current timeline.
I think Powder's gonna come back to Piltover through a time thing, and then it's gonna be. We'll see what happens. I don't.
Ooh.
I'm just saying.
She
it might not be the
decides
same
to push
Jinx.
the limit.
Yeah, I think Jinx is now off to Demacia, but Powder's gonna like be like, oh, you can play with time. I helped you. I have all these Hextech cores. I'm gonna get my sister back, and then she's gonna.
Screamed whenever I saw all of those in the, the cabinet. I was like, nah. Yeah. We had them this whole time.
Echoes of the firelights. Is that the did not like that we didn't do anything with them really until the finale. They kind of
I missed the bat looking boy, the bat guy.
Oh yeah,
I was like, his design is so cool. Like, I wanted more of him, but
we got to see him like a couple of times. But he wasn't like anyone.
Yeah.
Also, the fish guy, I was here for him.
Yeah.
Silent
the
fish guy.
How about Jace? We talked about him with Victor. I think also a character that didn't get a ton to do this season, honestly.
Yeah.
No, I think that's okay because I think we got so much of him in season 1, and then really his I don't know, arc of the season, if we're gonna call it his character arc, takes place in whatchamacallit episode. Whenever he's in the alternate universe, and 7, I do really enjoy, and I know I mentioned it earlier, but I do really enjoy that he literally went on like the same journey as Victor did. Like, he's down in the Undercity, his legs busted up, he can't walk, like he has to figure out how to crawl his way up to the top, and I think that's like, I love that like symbolism. It's so beautiful. And then whenever he comes back and he kills Sallow, and that what is it? That's the beam that I'm referencing. Is what someone was like. They're like, as soon as I saw this, I was having like flashbacks from playing him in the lanes. Like, if you come across a good Jace, it's hard. And I was like, oh, I think Jace was one of the reasons why I stopped playing the game.
Nice.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I had stuff in 7. Yeah, I don't have a ton on Jace, honestly. But you saw some good stuff. What other characters have we not talked about? Anyone else you guys want to bring up?
I did every time. I will always do this every time with Singed, and I see his daughter. I'm always gonna say, Ariana, what are you doing here? Because of the meme with Ariana from Nicki Minaj. Anyway, yes, so Oriana, I'm like so sad because I was like, no, I want to see more of Oriana and her design stuff, but I don't think we're I think that's as much as I'm ever gonna get of Oriana. But yeah,
Dead daughter garden, beautiful, or dead daughter room.
Yeah, the ladybug joke.
Someone kept going like, wow, like Singed got everything he wanted.
He really
he got
did,
his
though.
happy ending, and it's like, he was right. He's like, I'm a patient man. I know when I'm gonna get what I want, and I'm like, wow.
Nice. What happens with Vander at the end? I don't even remember.
I think he dies. No?
Yeah. He more or less dies in what is it, episode 6?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. He's not really in
because that's not Vander who comes back. That's definitely Warwick for sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like waiting for the show to get into it a little bit, but yeah.
Which is why it's even more tragic for like Vi to be like trying to save like quote unquote Vander, and I'm like, that's not Vander anymore, baby girl. You need to stop. He's gone. He died a long time ago.
That's her fatal flaw. Vi is always gonna want to protect and never gives up, and that's why Jinx was like, you will never give up on me, so I have to walk away because you got to be happy too, which is so sad. I'm like, there must be a world where these two can be happy together as sisters and also be happy apart and or whatever.
Yeah. Very tragic.
Yeah.
Very tragic. April, any closing thoughts, things that are still on your mind?
I really enjoyed the fight scene or the sequence whenever Savika gets her new arm.
Yeah.
Like that whole like fight sequence, it's like stuck in my head and plays on repeat. I don't know what it is, but I also just really enjoy like the craziness of the arm developed by Jinx, and the fact that she even incorporated her own song into the arm.
Yeah.
And does her cute little dance to it.
Yeah.
Like that's one of my favorite scenes. There's a lot of scenes in this show that in this season in particular that stand out for me, and we've talked about a lot of them. So
Nice.
Yeah, great.
Beatriz,
Really enjoyed.
any last things you want to bring up?
I'm happy this show exists. I would not have believed a show like this of this animation quality would have existed before it came out. And now I think I'm just so happy that it's there. And again, like, it's not perfect, but few things in life are. And it's so gorgeous. And it's gorgeous of a animated thing. And I just am excited for what Fortiche does next. I'm excited for whatever Riot decides to do. Star Guardians, please. And yeah, I'm just I am happy that I'm happy with what we got.
Nice. Beatriz, something I thought during the season when we were seeing, I think the Savika arm scene, I was like, I think Arcane is just Ruby with a lot of money.
Oh my God, why would you say this to me? Why would you
I was
say
like,
this
am I
to
watching
me?
Ruby?
Well, you know what? I love Savika and I love Yang, so I can hold both their fake arms in my hands. I have two hands, you know. So
You have 2 hands to hold.
There you go.
Fake arms.
2 hands to
Yeah.
hold them.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, echo the animation Arcane and love seeing it, and yeah, I mean, we've gotten like a few, I think, other original, yeah, I mean, Arcane based on something, but adult animated shows since, like Scavenger's Reign and Hazbin Hotel come to mind. So I think we're getting maybe some cool original stuff too. Would love to see more. Hopefully the success spurs more like this. Obviously excited to see anything else from I don't know, this, to be honest, I was gonna say this universe, but I'm not like attached to the universe. It's more like the production, I think, is
Okay. Listen, what if I told you there are these 2 lesbians that one basically fights for the sun and one fights for the moon,
that sounds great.
and they're in this like religious conflict war, and they were separated, and they love each other, but they're enemies.
It sounds like something the show would do.
I just think there are so many. Or what if I introduce you to a character who's like a fox girl and she's really cute?
Yes.
You know,
interested.
also like it's a play on, also like if you do Star Guardians, it's a play on like Sailor Moon and all the magical girl shows, but it's darker, and it's not just girls, it's also boys. It's magical girls and boys who like.
That's very cool.
I think you know, there's a lot that they could do. There's a lot that could be very interesting and very different from Arcane.
That's like the great thing about the League of Legends like universe, is because there's so many like worlds within it. So I think they even have like I can't remember what it's called, but it's very much like samurai world basically. Yeah. There's like a pirate world. Yeah, there's a pirate world.
Like there's so much that can be done. There's so much they can do.
So while it's sad that we only get 2 seasons of Arcane, I'm very excited to see what else they do with this.
There's like more yordles. They could do an entire show just with yordles, you know? So
Yordle.
like, yeah.
I never heard that word before today, so that's I mean, it's
You're
the
welcome.
Heimerdinger, right?
Heimerdinger,
So, okay. Sounds fake, but okay. Okay.
They're immortal.
Look, we love that. Okay, so yeah, love and it should be noted, Spider-Verse inspired stuff this season, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah. Very clear parallels.
Lovely little fun fact that in the dance between Echo and Powder, it was in 4 frames per second, because it's like the 4-second limit for Echo. Anyway, that's it.
It's a beautiful scene. Yeah. So can't wait to rewatch 7. Great stuff on this discussion. Let us know what you thought of our Arcane season 2 discussion. Agree, disagree, let all your thoughts in the comments. youtube.com/overlyanimated or overlyanimated.com. If you enjoyed this, consider supporting us via Patreon at patreon.com/overlyanimated. Thanks to our current patrons, especially our patron of the podcast, Carter. And thanks as always to our Patreon executive producer, Steve, Michael, and Phoenician. Yeah, check out the season 1 podcast. Check out the Ladybug stuff we got going on. And let us know what else you'd want to see talked about. Shows like this. Any more Arcane discussion. Any last thoughts, Beatriz, April?
Nope. Just be nice online, because online is mean. Be nice. Always remember to be nice.
Don't be toxic like the game.
Yeah.
I've seen pretty nice commentary, I guess, from the Arcane fandom. I think that's been good. A lot of shipping though. Maybe I'm just seeing all the shipping. I don't know.
The Arcane fandom is absolutely different from the League of Legends players. So it's okay. I love you guys.
Okay. Yes. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.